then
Okay,
I'll,
is that
start
recording?
explaining the rest.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
And go.
I will be presenting, we will be presenting the Alzheimer's Association in Orange County, and I'm Yesenia. This is Verenice, Trino, and Orquídea. Okay. Our problem is the Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's is a progressive degenerative disorder. This disorder attacks the brain's nerve cells or neurons. This results in loss of memory, thinking and language skills, and behavioral changes. This is a big issue in the United States. There's 5.1 million cases. I couldn't find the exact number for Orange County. I contacted the help line, and they couldn't give me an exact amount, but they did tell me that Orange County is one of the biggest counties in regards to the amount of elders. So diseases like this that are related to age, 65 and older, are more prone to be in Orange County. And this disease actually doubles once you reach 65 and over. So the number will escalate rapidly in coming years as the baby boom generation ages. So a lot of retirees are in Orange County, and they're part of the baby boom generation. So there's going to be a lot more cases of Alzheimer's occurring there. The program focuses on the support for the caregiver. So we focus on making sure that they're being taken care of, because they're so worried about taking care of the patients that they usually don't concentrate on their own health. The program will provide support groups and psychoeducation for the caregivers. Where the center is located in Orange County, we also go towards the caregivers. So if they can't come to us, we'll go to them. And when our program will run from January 2013 to June 2013, it's generally 6 months.
We're trying to target our population is about 200, because this is such a small program. So this is a starting program. So that's why our group is our target population is such a small group that we're targeting at the moment.
How? The program is structured to provide information about the disease, the resources, how to expand the caregiver's skills effectively. This includes lectures, discussions, and written materials led by professionals with specialized training. As far as the support, it focuses on building support where participants discuss problems, successes, and feelings regarding caregiving. The opportunity to exchange ideas and strategies are effective for them. So whatever helps them feel more relaxed, because they're generally more prone towards stress that can harm your health. Why? The program is set to decrease the impact of caregiving on the Alzheimer's caregiving. Decrease the impact of stress on the caregiver for Alzheimer's, because people who are caregivers are more prone to have health issues themselves, such as strokes and heart attacks, since it's so stressful to take care of an Alzheimer's patient.
Okay, settings of those with Alzheimer's disease, an estimated 4% are under age 65, 6% are 65 to 74, 44% are 75 to 84, and 46% are 85 or older. Alzheimer's disease is among the top 10 leading causes of death in the United States, and Medicare payments for an older person with Alzheimer's are nearly 3 times higher than for an older person with these conditions. Medicaid payments are 19 times higher. An estimated of Alzheimer's patients live alone. More women than men have Alzheimer's disease. Almost 2/3 of Americans with Alzheimer's are women. 3.4 million are women and 2.8 million are men. Women live longer than men, so that's the reason why. And then,
okay, now this chart, it actually shows it's a comparative, I believe, from Alzheimer's disease to stroke, prostate cancer, breast cancer, and heart disease and HIV. If you see Alzheimer's disease, it's in the positive, while the rest are actually negative compared to each of those diseases and the rate of death. As well as the accumulation of population on how it's affecting generally the population OC. So if you notice, it's already in 66% on Alzheimer's, while stroke, it's in the negative 20% comparative to Alzheimer's disease. And breast cancer is actually getting up there. It's actually going above. It's over here at the -3%. So it's actually getting, closing into the gap, at least going into the positive comparative to Alzheimer's disease. So you can see it's a big problem that we're actually facing in the future, especially since we're dealing with the silver tsunami that we're going to be hitting soon. Since a lot of people are aging out into the system, and we're going to be dealing with a lot of women and men that are going to get Alzheimer's no matter what. And it's not a curative disease, so there's preventative things that can be done, but for now, at this moment in time, there is no way to cure Alzheimer's.
And then to continue our study, so ethnic older African Americans are probably about twice as likely to have Alzheimer's as older whites, and Hispanics are about 1.5 times as likely to have Alzheimer's as older whites. So for example, there was a study made in 2006 of Medicare beneficiaries found that Alzheimer's disease had been diagnosed in 9.6% of whites, 12.7% of African Americans, and 14% of Hispanics. This disease impacts a greater percentage of Americans. The number of people aged 65 and older will be more affected by the disease. And then this pie graph shows like the Hispanics who are greater and compared to whites are the ones with less program input. Alzheimer's Association staff provides services to caregivers on how to provide education and support services on how to deal with stress, give them resources, do pre-tests to see how much information caregivers already know, show them how to plan activities that are short in length and age appropriate, learn to limit choices for clients, and focus on enjoyment, not achievement, and how often we will provide services weekly. We go to them, as Yesenia mentioned, because caregivers have a harder time providing support and services for themselves, so we are eliminating that barrier. That's the reason we're going to them, and where at the caregiver's location, or as well they could come to our center. Expected outcomes. The expected outcomes of the Alzheimer's Association of Orange County program is to provide support for 200 caregivers every 6 months. The program will measure the progress of the clients through intake, pre-test, and post-test to show the way caregivers are coping with their stress. We hope to achieve 80% of caregivers to show improvement in the ability to cope with stress, and it is expected that the clients will improve between 60 to 100% from pre to post-test.
Measurement instruments and why. We use a single group design pre and post tests. And we asked some of these questions. How is the caregiver's relationship with the patient and other family members? What are the coping mechanisms the caregiver uses to deal with the stress caused by the caregiving? Are stress coping mechanisms effective? Knowledge about the disease, and I think this is one of the most important ones to make the caregiver aware of, so that he or she knows what to expect, since this is a very unpredictable disease that you don't know how the patient will be acting, and it's some of them go down the hill really fast, some of them take a while to show signs of the illness or severe deterioration. Also, financial stability, I would say, is also important. How are you financing? Are you having to work and then take care of the person? And why is this? To confirm if the program was able to promote any changes on the population base served. Data analysis. Analyze the evolution of the outcome will be based on the pre and post test given to caregivers, based on emotional health status, and these are some of the emotions that they could probably experience. Physical health, it also, besides emotional, it involves a lot of physical strength, especially when the person has when the illness has advanced and it requires a lot of help with bathing and things like that. It's kind of like that. Financial resources, stress level, use of other resources to help keep caring for the patient, and how often does the caregiver does things he or she enjoys, hobbies, go out with friends, and et cetera, et cetera.
Now the stress level actually affects your health. Like the majority of you, anytime you're in finals, you start getting sick, your immune system gets bombarded, so you'll be okay for maybe a week or two and then you're sick again. You're okay for a week or two and you're sick again. So imagine it throughout the lifetime of the Alzheimer's patient where there is no recovery. You're continuously being stressed out because you're always concerned for that patient. You do not take care of yourself as the caregiver, and you just forego a lot of the things that are necessary for yourself, your own personal health. You start neglecting your health needs from not going to the doctors to when you get yourself sick, or just doing your own monthly checkup to see what's going on with yourself. Since most of the time you spend on taking care of that AD patient, that it actually eventually starts to do a mental strain as well. And you start lacking all those skills that you had learned growing up, maybe some of the healthy skills that you had learned, you start foregoing them because whatever emergency is going on. So you're in a constant state of stress when you're dealing with an AD patient.
Okay, evaluation design, single group design. Okay, so it's a follow-up on caregivers 6 months after completing the program. And then the validity threads, some of them are maturation. So that it could be that the program worked or the person just became accustomed to the constant stress, and he or she learned to cope with the stress by themselves, not the program. Attrition, and then also history, instrumentation, and how fast the illness is progressing, as I mentioned before. Some of them go down the hill really fast, for some of them it takes a while. Socioeconomic status and ethnicity also is very important.
Now, attrition is basically if people move away, the person dies. The history is also based on what's going on around the world, how the economy is affecting them, political, finances, instrumentation. Okay. So each one of those does affect the program and how it's going to be affected or non-effective. And the following up on the caregivers for 6 months after completing the program, they still have the possibility of coming back if they still need more help. So that's not closed off. It's just is to see at one point if they need it, they could always come back to it. So anybody that's in the program can always come back to it. Now the hypothetical graphs here. Actually we got this from Alzheimer's Association, and the estimated lifetime risk of Alzheimer's from ages 65 to 75 to 85 for women and men. As you notice, it actually progresses, and on the first one for men, which is 9.1, and the women are 17.2, it actually gets progressively worse. So as they get older, the risk factors of death take a big play on it, and the worse the Alzheimer's it gets, the worse the fatality comes around. So. And then here is actually a pre and post test for the program. And the first test is actually the start of the program to see where each person is at on the education level, how their coping skills are, what they know about the disease, and then by the end of the first month, we do a post test to see if they've gotten any progress on the information. Midway through the program, on the 3rd month, we do a pre-test, post-test again at the end of the month, and then we repeat it finally graduation. And our hope for the people that are in our program is to actually get better scoping skills as well as other resources. while they're in the program. The recommendations for the evaluation is to improve is administering post-test every 3 months, and compare results to another program with similar attributes. We do have Alzheimer's program association, but they're more dedicated to the people that have a lot more money, and I think where we needed to actually make it a better program for ourselves, since it's such a young program, expanding it instead of 6 months to actually being a year instead of those 6 months. To create a timeline series analysis in order to plot date over a longer span of time, between 1 to 5 years, because it depends also as well on the Alzheimer's patients and the caregivers. Each one of those, they could either age out of the system, or the Alzheimer's patient actually dies. And I think where we could have probably improved is to see how the caregiver, after the patient had died, is dealing with the stress of that death. So probably provide a grieving system supporting group, and to see how to help others as well. So not just limiting it to the duration of that Alzheimer's patient being alive, but providing something afterwards as well. I think that was one thing I noticed that I didn't see it in the Alzheimer's Association, the big one, compared to our smaller version. So let me see. The program improvements, they partner with external communities, resources, housing, education, medical, and government. Expand the program variety to that should include financial and hospice services. Expand the resources that include education to the public. There's a lot of stigma, a lot of misinformation out there on Alzheimer's. A lot of people are not aware that there's Alzheimer's. They keep on confusing it with other diseases. So I think that would be important just to talk to people and get people aware that there are that the AD is very prominent and is going to be hitting us really hard. And then making the program longer for the client care options. So any questions? Yes.
You said that there are ways to prevent Alzheimer's. Do you know?
It has to do with health. Eating better. It also has to do with eating actually organic food. I know there's a lot of misinformation. There was an actual argument between me and a friend of mine about how organic food is not the best way, and it has to do with pesticides. I keep on saying it's such a minimal thing. It stays within your body longer, especially for the women, because we're the ones that are producing the babies, and it alters your genetics, and it goes through the system, and it stays, and it still transfers to the fetus. So if the woman is not eating properly, it does affect the genetics. So now we're talking about the Alzheimer's. They could do a lot of mind games, improving their cognitive ability, doing puzzles, word games, any of those things. It's always really good to do that. And it's one of the things that I constantly do. I always do word games. I challenge myself. So the younger you start, the better, because it actually improves those skills, and it holds off the Alzheimer's. It doesn't completely cure it, but it prevents you from better chances to actually stopping that.
Yes.
I mean, from getting to there too soon. Any other questions?